Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to spangle a lace bobbin, and before I start I want to give a really big thanks to Bob, Kim and Marianne, whose kind donations have paid for the subtitles on this video. I really appreciate it and I want to give you a big thanks for that. Now, with the spangling, it's generally done on Midlands bobbins, and you can see here I've got a couple, and they have the hole in the bottom where you're going to put a spangle through. It's always a good idea to spangle your bobbins if you have bobbins like this, because they add weight to your bobbin and will help with the tension and the control of the thread. There's a couple of items that you'll need, and I've got a long-nosed pair of pliers here and then just an ordinary pair to cut my wire. I've got beading wire and then a selection of beads. Now I have a lot of beads, but I never have the right colour or the right size, so just bear in mind it can be a little bit frustrating when you have a beautiful bobbin and you want to put a matching spangle on it, and you may have to go and find some more beads. But what you're after is a large bead here, which I call the header bead because it's the one that sits right at the bottom. Then you want a couple of smaller ones either side as spacer beads. Then another two which are again slightly smaller than your header bead but slightly bigger than your spacer beads. Then I've got a couple of very tiny spacer beads there, just little green ones. Then another smaller bead, and then finally I end up with a last spacer bead, which is the bead that's going to sit right by the spangle. So you don't want it too big, otherwise it'll be too big to sit close to the spangle. What I would avoid, and as beautiful as this spangle is, this flower on the end is going to cause some issues when you try and sew in your bobbin. So I have a few of those, and if I'm going to be sewing the pair in, I will always use the spangle that doesn't have a dangly bit, because it's much easier to make the loop and then just put this spangle through the loop rather than trying to battle making a loop with this one. So that's just a word of caution. It's a beautiful spangle, but it's not practical for making lace with. I'm about to start putting my spangle on. I've got all my beads on, and you might think this is a long length of wire, and it is longer than I need, but I do find that having the longer wire will make my life a little bit easier. Now the first thing I'm going to do is thread my wire, one of my ends, through this hole here. Now some of the holes may be a little bit too small, so in which case if you get a heated up needle and then run that through, it will burn away some of the wood, so that then hopefully you'll be able to get your wire through, because actually we want to get 2 lengths of wire through. So I've got my first one through and I've turned it round, and I'm now taking the other wire through in the other direction. So I'm hoping this will go through, and it's going to be a tight fit, but just persevere with it. And then once it's through, you can use your long nose, I think they're called long nose, to hold it and pull the wire through and pull it tight. So I'm just going to right, so I've pulled my wire tight against my bobbin, so my beads sit against my bobbin. I've just got a little bit of a gap there, so I'm just going to, there we go, pull it up a little bit tighter. And what I'm then going to do is I'm going to lay one of the wires along the length of my bobbin, because that will help keep the tension on it, and I'm only going to work with one of them. Now ideally you want this wire a little bit longer, but it'll be fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap that wire around 3 or 4 times. So I'm using my pliers because you can get a good grip on your wire and you can pull it really tight. So that's one. So that's 2. And oh, it's just come askew with, so just make sure it is going between the last spacer bead and your bobbin. So round a 3rd time. So that's the 3rd, and now another one more, one for luck, and that, pull that tight. Now I was shown a trick, and the trick is to wiggle this wire. Now we may be here a few minutes because sometimes it does it really quickly and sometimes it doesn't, but what you're doing is creating friction on the wire, and oh, suddenly it will snap, and that will leave a pretty much a sharp edge. It won't leave a sharp edge, it will leave a nice smooth edge that won't catch on your thread. Now I've done one side, so I can now come and do the other side. So I'm just going to tighten it up a little bit, and then I'm going to do exactly the same. So I'm going to take my wire around 3 or 4 times. I tend to do it 4 times, but 3 does work as well. But you want to make sure it's secure. So just wrap it round, and this one's probably a little bit too long because obviously I lost some of it on the other side. Just keep wrapping. Let me just trim that. So this is what your other pair of pliers are for, is for trimming the wire. So I think, now I can't remember if I've done 3 or 4, so I'm just going to leave it there because I know I've done at least 3, and I'll probably look at the video later and find I've only done 2, but it looks really good. I don't know if you can see that. You can see it's wrapped around, and then all you're going to do again is just wiggle. I love this bit. Now this I find, or I call a telly job, because it's a job that you can do in front of the television. And there is my spangled bobbin. Everything is all nice and tight. I haven't had to work very hard to do that. One of the traditional methods was to take the wire down here and do something down here, and it never worked brilliantly, and you always ended up with a piece of wire sticking out. One word of warning though, don't do too many in one go because it does make your fingers sore, especially when you're wiggling your wire. I love that. Anyway, hopefully that's shown you how to spangle your bobbins. It's one of those jobs that we all put off, and we've probably got lots of lovely, gorgeous bobbins sitting in a box waiting to be spangled, but that is a very quick and easy way of doing it, and you will end up with beautiful spangles. Thanks for watching, and have fun lacing.